Hey, what is up, everyone? It is Rich. All right, this is gonna be cool. I was looking for some art and stumbled upon this video that I had recorded for Patreon. It's me inking a Ryan Benjamin page, and I thought what I would do is I would do a new audio commentary. I was gonna record an inking video kind of similar to this for Patreon today, but I figured I'll throw this up just as a public YouTube video because I'm pretty sure that I uploaded. Sometimes I finish videos and don't actually ever share them, so it happens and they kind of slip through the cracks where it's like I go, oh, I'll post that next week. But anyway, we're gonna look at me inking. This is a Ryan Benjamin Nightwing page. Really, really beautiful piece of original art, and the camera will kind of shift at some point. My camera auto focuses and I think turns the view from widescreen to, like, I call it idiot mode. But it's just one of those things. The footage was recorded, I have it, and it is what it is. So settle in, let's do this. This is like a 33-minute video, and it'll be fun, and I'll talk about techniques and whatnot, and yeah, let's go. All right, I'm gonna try to put this in full screen mode. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is Nightwing. It's sped up a little bit, not too much, but normally when I will do a background like this, it'll be a combination of effects. I mean, that's obviously the most line work that you're seeing right now is that all that hatching stuff. So back a long time ago, what I would do is I would use rapidographs. The DC paper is hit and miss, and so a Micron is actually a softer pen. For whatever reason, just the way that it goes down is soft and it doesn't seem to tear the paper. And when I'm on a deadline, I can't be fighting with tools. So you'll see me, I switch a lot. I prefer to use a Hump 102, but sometimes it's just difficult to have paper that can actually handle the tool now. It's very, very unfortunate, but I taper the lines. You'll see me kind of do like multiple strokes before I throw one. Occasionally, those are more consistently width lines, but you'll see me do tapered lines. And what I do is I create like a little triangle and then I flick it. So the thing is you show a video like this and then people go, oh, this is how Rich always inks. It just depends. I mean, I can ink in any way I want. So again, I'm trying to get through a deadline. I need to ink this page in a day, and I'm not going to sit and fight with a tool. Whether it's my preferred tool or not, it's not the point. The point is I need to make a mark that I want, and I want to get it down as quickly and efficiently as possible. So, when Ryan, like, when he does these backgrounds, it's much faster to pencil it than it is to ink it. You may spend multiple hours doing a background effect like what's behind that. And you'll see me outlining blacks. I don't recommend that, honestly, for people. I think a lot of times it is better to actually put the stroke down originally. I've inked so many pieces, though. I kind of know what I'm doing, and I give myself a little breathing room for uh, what's going to need to go on later. Because the thing is when you just outline blacks, what you're doing is you're running the risk of having very flat and very outlined looking blacks. So the thing is what I do is when I ink a blue line, I will actually erase it at the end. It sounds weird, but I still erase the blue line, and it does remove some of the blue. Whoa, what is going on? I think maybe my camera fell out of the thing. I'm not even sure. But yeah, so at the very end of the process, I'll erase the page and then fill in the remaining blacks and then do any kind of white special effects that I'm going to use. But yeah, I mean, so it's interesting how I even stumbled upon using a Micron for professional work. One time at Wildstorm, somebody was on the hook for a Robotech story. It may have been Jim. And he procrastinated and put it off and put it off and put it off, and finally it needed to be done. And so he got like 7 of us to all work on it and do it in like a day. And so I don't, for whatever reason, I think that maybe some of the non-inkers use microns, like they were inking their stuff with microns at that point. And so just so that there would be a consistent look throughout the pages, it was maybe like an 8-page story. We all used microns, and I found what I liked about the Micron is, again, how soft it was on the piece. Like here's with a nib, um, but the DC paper can tear, and so the problem is at that point I don't remember if it was that. I think we did that in around 1999. I want to say I was inking Travis around then, to be honest. But yeah, so I will sometimes will avoid the nib just based on the piece of paper that day. Right now, I'm inking my own stuff with a Hunt 102, Copic multi-liners, and brush. So I use those three tools. But now I'm using a brush. You see, I'm going with a brush and doing it. I started inking with a brush. Like when I learned initially, I was a brush inker for a few months. Maybe not even that long. Maybe a month. I don't remember. But anyway, but I got pretty good with a brush, and so it's a fun tool for me. I'm real comfortable with it. And I've got no real beefs with the brush, other than the fact that it doesn't get every stroke, every effect that I want. And then the tool that I've used the longest is actually a Koh-i-Noor rapidograph. I started drawing with those in high school, and although I was just a hobbyist and not into comics at the time, I would do very detailed pen drawings with them and kind of try to get like a Giger look. Seemed to be my thing. So it was fortuitous, it kind of carried over into comics, and when I became aware of Travis's stuff and saw Travis inking his own work, he used the same pens, and so I was like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. Like something that I had used many years before I even knew about comics, was a tool that someone that I really admired was using. So I kind of went right back to it. I've talked about this before. About 3 months after I got to Wildstorm, I kind of abandoned the idea of being like the 10th inker that was going to be at Wildstorm that inked like the image style. So I just went back to kind of doing the rapidograph thing, and you can actually see it if you look at Cybernary #3, the Jeff Rebner issues, not Nick Manabet. You'll see my style changes there. That was the point where I went like, I'm going to do this other thing that I've already kind of got under my belt, and use the brush inking, use my ability to work with pens, meaning pen. Like Copic multi-liners are similar. I mean, I actually really enjoy Copic multi-liners. The downside with a rapidograph is they're difficult to maintain. They're a very expensive pen too. And on top of it, they're metal. It's a metal needle, and going back to the quality of paper now, a metal pen can get rippy. I still like once I am back on Blaster Kid, I'm probably gonna bust out my two thinnest rapidographs for that, which would be the it's a 6-0 and then there's a 4-0. One's pink, one's blue. So you can see the camera shifted at this point. It's not terrible. So I'm just talking about the background. I think I'm going to go in and start using brush in this area a little bit. It'll be a combination of the two, but I'm essentially trying to get grays to black. And I know that now it's a popular look digitally. Everybody's got their 3 or 4 cross-hatching tools, and they'll blast backgrounds with that effect. But you're really not going to mimic what I'm doing here with my hand, to be honest. It's like digital is repetitive patterns that can be rotated. Is generally what the brush will do, is it will kind of move a few degrees and keep rotating it. But I just see the same lines repeated over and over again. Any of those little anomalies. It's 3 dots. It's 3 dots again. It's 3 dots again. And they're just rotating. This stuff is just way more interesting to me. I guess this is in real time now. I guess it's in real time. So when I'm doing these strokes, I mean, I'm definitely following a little bit of what Ryan has, but if I want it to blend, meaning that I've decided in my mind where the gray is going to start getting darker, I won't necessarily slavishly repeat their lines. because it's ultimately they're just giving you a recommendation of kind of what they want. Like, do you see there's a X? He was say wants black there. So my job is then to just have the lines get you to that black. Normally what I do is you'll see my lines will get thinner to thicker, and as they get thicker they'll start to get closer together. So I'm scooting the lines closer together and then making them more beefy. That helps with the fade. What else? There's no real form in this background, meaning that it's there's no structure to it, no three-dimensional form. This is a flat technique, and that's another risk that you run with a lot of the digital tools, airbrush and all that stuff. Is you know, it doesn't take into account structure. So when I curve lines, even if I'm curving them on something like this, I'm still able to sort of force in some three-dimensionality to things. Now I'm sort of using the side of the brush a little bit. What I do is you'll see me place the brush down and then I flick it sideways. Do you see? I push it down and flick it sideways. It's a different stroke. I'm not using the point of the brush. I'm using maybe the very top 5% of the brush is a blunt object. And again, I'm pulling them closer together and thicker, and then it fades. I really loved how this piece turned out. I think I just recently sold it. I can't remember, but I think I did. But I think someone finally bought it, which was a smart move because it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of original art. And I've talked about this before. It's easier to talk about now because I'm not actually inking anymore. But when I was inking Amy Reeder, she was working on printer paper. So initially, the first issue that I came in to help her start inking her stuff, and then I took over full time. She didn't actually have original art on artboard, so I had to ink on blue lines, and I actually liked blue lines for a few reasons. One was it was a pristine piece of paper because it hadn't been penciled on. Two, the blue stays down, which was nice because pencil lead can get smeary, and depending on the type of pencil that your penciler uses, throughout the day as you're inking it, I mean, the lines can actually start to kind of vanish, and so there was those qualities to it. And then on top of it, I was able to keep all of my inks. She kept her pencils, I kept all my inks. And so as I did jobs after that, sometimes I would ink over the original pencils, sometimes I would ink over the original or over a blue line, and ultimately I went all right, I ink 250 pieces of art a year, something like that. And I'm giving away literally like 2/3 of my inks to the penciler, and I finally went I'm just gonna keep all my inks, and they can keep their pencilers. Now art collectors, there's different thoughts on it. Some like blue lines, some don't care. But ultimately, I went I want to keep all my inks, and so I kind of made a rule of myself that I wouldn't take a job unless I could do it over blue line, which is very unusual. You never really hear people say that. So I think I broke some ground with that. And I think I broke ground in the fact that when blue lines first started to pop up, there was a lot of backlash against it. But I already knew professionally how people were working, and pencilers were getting more and more into digital stuff, and I knew that it wasn't going to go away. And in fact, I knew for a fact that original art in general would start to become more scarce because people would work digitally all the time. It was just a more efficient and faster way to do pages. And you see that now. You see artists that work 100% digital. They're doing things like selling one-of-one prints that they kind of try to present as original art, and then there's NFTs and stuff like that popping up. But yeah, and so I don't regret it at all, because the thing is over the 5 or 6 years that I only worked on blue lines, I kept 1,000 pages of art, something like that, as opposed to having 300 pages, 333 pages, we'll say. Yeah, I just didn't like seeing all that hard work going out the door. And again, it was controversial. I had some pencilers that were didn't like it, and I was just like, that's I've worked in this business a long time, and that's you have your rules, I've got my own, and so I passed on some jobs because of that, and I don't regret it at all, to be honest. And now I'm out of inking, so it doesn't matter. But um, there was a lot of advantages to working over blue lines. I think in another 10 years, um, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not going to cave on traditional art. I'm sticking to traditional art. I'm old enough where it's like there's a fan base that's already just set in stone, and so regardless of the thing is traditional artists, we can't go into the NFTs anyway if you really wanted to. So I don't want to get too into that whole thing. So this is a Hunt 102. People always ask me like, what's the thing on it? All it is it's like it's a kid's pencil holder thing, like one of those little foam rubber things that you could put on a pencil to make it wider. Nothing special. They were just laying around the house, and I grabbed one day and threw it on my nib. I for years never used one, but yeah, I don't even know. I honestly don't remember why I actually threw it on. Luckily, I don't have hand problems. Oh, this is another thing too. So I always keep a photocopy of the pencils. You can see that Ryan did some of that stuff digitally. Some of the background stuff in that second panel, that's digital. That's a digital effect that he threw in. I did it traditionally, but I can tell just by looking at it. Again, that's how fast I can tell. I was just talking about that. I can spot it right away. It's like in 3 seconds. It just doesn't. It looks artificial. Um, uh, so. Yeah, luckily I don't have any hand problems. I actually think that traditional art is actually pretty ergonomic in general. I've seen far more people have hand problems based on working on a Cintiq or using a mouse and stuff like that than I have from traditional art. So yeah, I think what it is, and watch when I do this. Do you see I'm constantly taking breaks? So I'm always relaxing my hand. When I'm not inking, my hand releases the tool, and so there's um, almost like a aerobic sort of vibe to it all. And I think that it strengthens your hand and also gives it time to relax. Whereas some tools, like a brush, I think you can kind of more get a death grip on. At least for me, I've always found that. Like if I ink with a brush for a long time, that will wear my hand out. A 102, you're kind of. I always wipe it down. So when you see me going off camera, what I'm doing is I'm taking a towel and I'm kind of rubbing the quill nib itself and wiping it off. And sometimes I'll even dip it in water. If my ink is a little tacky, it's a little thicker than I want, not coming off the tool, I'll put my 102 in water and sort of shake it around and then go into my ink, so that helps. So again, I'm doing that side stroke with the brush. You can see me, I push it down and I flick it sideways, push it down, flick it sideways. They're getting thicker and closer together. I've talked about this before too, because I know that people sometimes want to pick my brain on inking, and I've said this, and I don't know if people really believe me. Between Patreon and YouTube right now, every technique that you would ever use as an inker, I've already explained. The thing that is the challenge for people is that you have to be better at drawing to take that stuff to the furthest limits. And so the basic techniques of inking are what I would consider finite. There might be a lot, but there's only really so many ways you're going to flick a line or do things. And obviously there's extremes. So Danny Mickey sort of popped up into my head because of that stone video, the Silvestri piece. I mean, Danny uses a lot of very, very stylish maneuvers with his tools. So he pushed it even further than most inkers do. It was a year or two ago. I would actually love to have Danny on the channel. It would be really fun to talk to him. He's generally not online too much, but he had posted some warm up. I don't know if it was a video or if it was just a sheet of like warm up scribbles that he did. They were wild. I'm sure I have it saved somewhere on my computer or external hard drive, but it was really, really crazy. All the different strokes he did. I apologize for it going out of frame. I mean, it's nothing you haven't seen already. Well, and that was the thing is people used to ask me like, oh, you should do more tutorial videos and stuff like that. I constantly rotate my page and I move it around my desk a lot. So it was always really difficult for me to record myself because I don't keep my board like sitting in one spot. I really move it around a lot because I'm looking for angles. I'm looking for angles where I can the most natural flow of my arm is what I'm gonna do. So in this area right here, there's a fade to black, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's kind of 4 hatches, and then a different one that's sort of on the exterior. I guess I'm going somewhere else. There's a fancy line. Oh, those are cracks in the wall or something I'm doing. But yeah, hopefully this is fun to see. I haven't uploaded an inking video in a while. But I have a ton recorded. I used to record myself inking all the time, and what would happen is they needed to be narrated, and so I would never narrate them because it's one, you have to watch the video all the way through, and two, then I have to process it through like Sony Vegas, and it takes hours. Not that I'm working on it, but it's the process is kind of annoying. So as I find the videos, I will actually go back and narrate some. And then once I start working on Blaster Kid, I will do videos of me working. With the Crystal Planet stuff, I can't show it anyway. So I'm kind of in a stalemate with that, But Crystal Planet really heats up. I'm actually looking forward to the next 3 books. The end of 2, the action really starts to pick up, and by 3, 4, and 5, it's kind of like not Star Wars, but it's I'm gonna be able to draw a lot of fun stuff. Those are nice strokes. So when I do that side of the brush technique, I consider that a Scott Williams technique. I didn't learn it from him, meaning like he didn't show me it, but that was what I guessed that he would do on gym sometimes with the sort of the swatch sort of vibe. They're kind of pointy and then thick, but I got that technique definitely trying to mimic Scott on gym, because sometimes I would have to do fill-ins, and so you want it to kind of match up. But there was no, I might have, maybe I developed it when I was inking Wills. Come to think of it, I'd have to look back and see when it came in. You know what? I bet I did. I bet when I was inking Wills on Wetworks, that I learned that because Wills would throw in, and it may be Scott may have actually developed that thing trying to mimic Wils's sort of. He would take the pencil and sort of put the side of it down and then flick these real, I call them Wills panel borders, but those panel borders that have they're real active. It's like strokey and they look like big bold brush strokes. That might have been where they ended up kind of developing that technique. I'm just gonna peek here and see what we got. How much? Oh, sorry. Let me see. Okay, so we've got like 12 minutes left. But even with you could see how long something like this could take. And I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing. You've got a really, really beautiful original when you're finished with it, and it's I totally get digital. Again, I'm a big fan of all the concept art stuff and all that. To me, concept art serves a different purpose, though. It's generally to share an idea. Part of the fun of comic art is the craft. I had kind of touched on this yesterday. I know that using digital tools and 3D models and the quality of your work can increase because of these tools, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But part of the charm of comic art is that it's drawn by someone, and that there's a connection to that artist and the creativity, and you appreciate their skill doing it. So there's a balance that I think creators need to be able to understand with that. Things that speed up the job are nice, but ultimately, is that going to build a reputation for your art? Is oh my god, he's the most amazing crafts person, and that goes for any kind of handmade thing. It's more special when it's done by the person and not a series of things. But that's, you know, subjective too. Whoa, what is going on there? So I'm taking that all to black, it looks like. And again, it's very, very tempting to fill in the black areas and stuff like that, like immediately. But you're better served, because if you're gonna have to erase the piece, which again I erase the blue lines, it'll keep your inks intact a bit more. If you erase over brushing, put down, and I'll touch on ink and getting ink really black in a second too. It will kind of fade the ink. So anyway, people always ask, how do you get your ink so black? So generally speaking, if I'm inking things like line work and stuff like that, I'm using new ink, like fresh ink out of the bottle. But that's actually a little bit of a lie. And I don't normally put my ink away if like right now, because I'm penciling and inking at night, I put away my ink. But when I was only inking, I would leave my ink out all the time. I never really put it away. And so ink thickens as it sits out. It oxidizes and the ink gets thicker and thicker and thicker, so it gets blacker. But what I would do is I would put water in my ink every day and thin it out, which is probably not the best idea, because at some point you've really diluted it. But I use very, very old ink to fill in my blacks. So the thicker stuff goes in for the larger black areas. And then when I'm working, you know, obviously I would lean more towards fresh ink, because you want something that will flow well and has got a good viscosity. So can kind of experiment with that. But if you really want really dark ink, like, take your ink and open it up and leave it open for maybe 10 to 16 hours, and it'll start to thicken up. I mean, you kind of keep your eye on it. It won't happen fast, but it'll get thicker and thicker until it turns into tar. You don't want it that thick, but yeah, that'll give you the jet black ink. And the same goes for whiteout. If you have whiteout that's too thin, just leave it open for a little bit and let it thicken. Don't use Pro White. I always recommend use Holbein acrylic white ink. It's the best stuff out there, in my opinion. Although I will say it comes more watery now than it used to. I don't know, the formula is a little bit different, but you know what? See, now I'm suspicious. I'm trying to remember where I bought my last batches. He told me, he said, you have to be really, really careful when you're buying Holbein online. He said, do not buy it from Amazon. And definitely not eBay, because there's a ton of bootleg product out there and it's just lesser quality. So you definitely want to get it from a store like Blick or something like that if you're going to buy that stuff. Don't go cheap on it, because you're going to probably, if it's too cheap, it's probably going to be fake, counterfeit. Microns are the same way. There's a lot of sellers on eBay that are selling fake Microns. They're made in China and they're suspiciously inexpensive. They're not as good as a real Micron. You want to make sure you get the Sakura Micron Pigma pens. Those you can get on ink, what is it called? Jet Pens, the Jet Pens website. Or again, a company like Blick. I have no affiliation to Blick. So the hair, a lot of times with hair, one recommendation that I'll get, like for nice tips on the hair, is do the tip first and then connect it to the longer part of the hair. So I generally will do the end of the hair first, you know, the little curl or whatever. I flick the curl first and then I do the big thing, and that'll actually increase the quality of the line, generally speaking. So I don't know, we're getting towards the end. Not sure how I wrap this up. Is it over? Let me see. No, we got like 6 more minutes. I don't remember if I statted in a version of the finished piece. I'm definitely not going to edit this video. So I've got the 102 again. Again, it's I'm not real particular about tools, other than, like I said, if the paper quality is causing me troubles, I'll immediately go to a Micron or a Copic multiliner, because I don't have time during the day to deal with paper ripping. And watch what I'm doing with my wrist. Do you see my hand is completely locked into place, but not with tension, and I'm rotating my wrist. That's the move. There's no give in my fingers. There's no give anywhere in my hand. I'm literally just like if you were knocking on a door and you were keeping your arm still. That's the stroke. And I apologize that the actual lines are out of frame, but again, you've already seen me do them. Ooh, that turned out nice. It's like, damn, what is going on, Rich? What are you up to? That's pretty cool shit. Again, I'm still making them thicker and closer together. That's how I blend. That's the blend move. You can see Ryan's got other lines in there. Sometimes if I don't think that the direction of a line that a penciler put down is going to get the fade I want, no problem just doing my own direction. I'm very comfortable doing fades. Oh, okay, so when you do almost parallel fades, you get that really neat little effect that I just got. So what it is if you're think about a clock and like 12 o'clock, if you go to like 11:58, like 2 minutes, that's the switch of the angle. So they're almost parallel but not quite, and that will give you that kind of neat sort of juxtaposed little squares that look like they're in perspective. And again, if you look through my channel, you can find like inking with a Micron inking, brush techniques, Hunt 102. They're there. There may even be playlists. I need to go, and I'm going to tighten up my channel here over the next like month or so. I'm just a little busy right now to do it, but as we creep up on 20,000 subs, I will hit that. So there's my Koh-i-Noors. The pen that I used in high school was the gray one. They're color-coded for size, but the gray one was my... I had that, and that was what I drew with a lot. It's not the thinnest pen. The yellow is thinner. What am I doing now? Oh, just throwing in a few of these. That's interesting that I'm using that. I don't even know why. I want a really tight fade if I'm doing this, because that's really weird. I have a real steady hand. I don't generally use a ruler for these things. Why I'm doing that is I want a mechanical effect. It's interesting. I'm trying to see what I'm inking. That's weird. I'm actually surprised that I'm using this. That's really trippy. I wanted a tight fade, man. I wonder... That's really weird. I have no idea why I'm doing this. I don't even like the result, to be honest. The ends are getting weird. I'm wondering if I must do something above it. It may not be in the video, but I guarantee I didn't leave those lines. That top part where where it goes from white to lines, there's no way in hell I left it like that. I guarantee. There's no way. Nothing gets past my eye. It's like I can spot like any anomaly on a page so fast now. But yeah, it's really weird. I have no clue why I did that. I really wanted a tight fade, that's for sure. But yeah, I'll blend that top end. It's looking ugly. That's another thing too, is it's okay for your art to look ugly when you're working on it. I know there's temptations to show works in progress and all that. And especially when you're doing something like this. But a lot of times things look weird until the end. It's just the way that it goes. And in fact, you actually have to have patience to be able to leave stuff alone. Like if you make a mistake and smear, sometimes it's better to leave it until the very, very end and clean it up then. Because putting whiteout on like a page, like taking white correction fluid and fixing something, 2 hours in inking a piece, and you're going to spend another 6 to 8 hours on it. By the time you're done, that white paint is going to be covered in pencil smears and little inky, residue that your hand is picking up, and you're going to have to lay it down again. And then when you lay it down again, now you've got this thick, chunky, real ugly area with whiteout. So patience with that stuff. Yeah, you can see I'm going in and putting stuff above it. Sorry, it's out of frame. I'm using the 005. That's one of the thinner. There's an 003 now, Micron. But yeah, you can see I'm starting to blend that stuff in. Yeah, I talked about it. I would put even thinner lines. I may do it later, but I don't know if it'll be in this video. But I have a feeling I probably threw even more, a few more. So I think that this is almost done. Yeah, it is. Okay, well, you guys have a great day. Hopefully that was fun to watch and gives you at least a little tiny bit of insight into doing a piece like this. Again, I apologize that the thing is sideways at times. obviously wasn't by choice. So there's still, man, I would say 4 hours left on this piece. So there's some work. Filling in all those blacks would be pretty thankless. So all right, have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. Let me get out of the screen. Okay, bye.